Hi friends, myself Dr. M.D. Page. I have done my MD Pharmacology from AIIMS New Delhi. I will be discussing pharmacology record questions of June 2020 AIIMS. All are advantages of entry-coated tablets except increases absorption of drug that are preferentially absorbed distal to stomach, increases T-half of drug, protects acid level drug from gastric pH, protects stomach from irritant drugs. See, entry-coated means the drug is coated with something which protects the drug. So this is the coating which protects the drug. This protects the drug as well as it protects the gastric mucosa from the stomach. Consider this is the coating. So it protects gastric mucosa as well as this coating protects the drug from the gastric acid. So option C, D both are correct. Now the first option, it increases absorption of drugs that are preferentially absorbed distal to stomach. See, this is common sense. If it is protecting the drug from gastric pH, it is protecting it from degradation. So if it is protecting from degradation, the drug goes safely to distal parts of GIT and gets absorbed. So this is partly correct. And we'll see what about increased T-half of a drug. T-half of a drug does not change with preparation or the route of the drug administered. T-half changes with what? It changes with volume of distribution or clearance of the drug. So it depends on volume of distribution and clearance, not on route of absorption. So the answer will be increases T-half of drug. Next, which is not a prodrug? Primidone, 5-fluorouracil, proguanil, Cilindac. If you see, all drugs are having active metabolites. Primidone is converted to phenobarbital, 5-fluorouracil to fluorouridine monophosphate, proguanil to cycloguanil, and Cilindac to its sulfide metabolite. Cilindac is a NSAID which gets converted to sulfide metabolite, and these are active. All these metabolites are active. So by definition, what is a prodrug? Prodrug is one in which the drug itself is inactive but its metabolite is active. Correct? After getting metabolized in liver. So this is the definition of prodrug. So if you see in these options, primidone, the drug itself is active, so it does not satisfy the definition of prodrug. Examples of prodrugs, there are many. I used to remember it by a mnemonic. First thing which you have to know is all ACE inhibitors are prodrugs, except captopril and lisinopril. Captopril and lisinopril both are active as it is, correct? And remaining, for example, enalapril is inactive, it gets converted to enalaprilat, which is active. Okay, so why I have said this is because if you remember all ACE inhibitors are prodrugs, you can remember almost all prodrugs by using this mnemonic. See, all ACE inhibitors are prodrugs, and you may remember lastly border security force, BSF. All alpha methyl dopa, acyclovir and levodopa. Next is ACE inhibitors, C for cyclophosphamide and C for clopidogrel. Proguanil, prednisone. Drugs, dipivefrin. B for bicampicillin and bitorterol, S for sulfasalazine, Cilindac, and F for fluorouracil. Now our options: fluorouracil, Cilindac, and proguanil. So the answer is primidone, correct? A 55-year-old male was on rosuvastatin therapy. Which drug should be avoided in this patient? Again, repeat related topic. Statins are metabolized by CYP3A4. Statins metabolized by CYP3A4, and If you inhibit this enzyme, CYP3A4 inhibitors, enzyme inhibitors, will cause toxicity of statins, enzyme inhibitors. So, if you modify the question, which among the following is enzyme inhibitor? Clarithromycin. So, answer will be clarithromycin. I will tell a simple mnemonic. For example, you may be knowing cement, correct? By cement, what you prepare? Concrete. No difficulty, okay. And you might also know ACC is a good cement company. ACC cements concrete, inhibits enzyme very fast. So not a difficult mnemonic to remember. Cement, cimetidine. Concrete, conazole. Which conazole? Itraconazole, ketoconazole. Ritonavir and other navirs. Inhibit INH, isoniazid. Enzyme erythromycin, clarithromycin, which is our answer, and other. Verapamil, valproate, and fast flavoxate, fluvoxamine. So these are the enzyme inhibitors which you can remember. ACC, allopurinol, chloramphenicol, ciprofloxacin. Following acts through intracellular receptors. Again a repeat question, no need to be panicked. Intracellular receptors, the hormones which act through intracellular receptor are the steroidal hormones, that is mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid, androgens, estrogen, progesterone, all steroidal hormones, plus thyroxine, vitamin A and vitamin D. So the answer is thyroxine, correct? Okay. Next question. Stimulation of muscarinic receptors results in, this question is about sympathetic and parasympathetic effect. See options: bronchodilation, myocardial contraction, erection, ejaculation. So bronchodilation, is it a sympathetic or parasympathetic? Sympathetic. By what? Beta 2. You may be doing beta 2 agonist salbutamol causes bronchodilation. Myocardial contraction, again sympathetic effect. Contraction is sympathetic, positive inotropic, chronobathmotropic is by beta 1 receptor. Now the confusion is between erection and ejaculation. If you remember sympathetic features, like for example by fright or flight reaction, you may just simply remember in case of fright or flight you ejaculate. So ejaculation is sympathetic and erection is parasympathetic, correct? So the answer will be erection. Next, a 70-year male with diabetes and hypertension presents with CKD stage 5, chronic kidney disease stage 5. Which drug requires least dose modification? Options were sitagliptin, saxagliptin, linagliptin, vildagliptin. If you see options, all options are DPP4 inhibitors, correct? And what the examiner is asking? Examiner is asking which DPP4 inhibitor is safe in renal failure. This is a direct repeat. Last 2 years back it was asked in May 2017. So if you see among all gliptins, all DPP4 inhibitors, all require decrease in dose in renal failure. All DPP4 inhibitors require reduction of dose in renal failure except one, linagliptin. Why? Lina loves liver. Lina liver, because it is excreted by bile, not by kidney. So the answer will be linagliptin. Now see, the similar question was asked 2 years back in May 2017. Same 70-year-old diabetes, hypertension with renal failure, does not want to take insulin. Which drug will you prefer in this patient? Again, linagliptin is there in option and vildagliptin is also there, but there are other options like exenatide and repaglinide. So here also answer is linagliptin. Exenatide, GLP-1 agonist, this is injectable. This is contraindicated. All GLP-1 agonists are contraindicated in renal failure. I am discussing about renal failure diabetic medications. Okay. Repaglinide, nataglinide, these are non-sulfonylureas, secretagogues, non-sulfonylurea, secretagogue, non-sulfonylurea. All these are again contraindicated in renal failure. Sulfonylurea, example glimepiride, glyburide, glibenclamide, etc. Sulfonylureas, all are contraindicated. Bigonides, commonly used drug, metformin, these are also contraindicated. Alpha glucosidase inhibitors. Alpha glucosidase inhibitors, example acarbose, all are contraindicated. See. Now further DPP4 inhibitors. All DPP4 inhibitors require reduction in dose. Correct? SGLT2 inhibitors. SGLT2 inhibitors, empagliflozin, canagliflozin, all are contraindicated in moderate renal failure. Moderate renal failure. Correct? And what remain in injectable, we discussed GLP-1 agonist. These are contraindicated. Remaining is insulin. Insulin is the preferred drug in renal failure, preferred antidiabetic medication in renal failure, and one more is amylin can be used. In oral, which was safe? Linagliptin was safe. Linagliptin was safe, and I have not mentioned thiazolidinediones. Thiazolidinediones, example pioglitazone, rosiglitazone. These are safe in renal failure. So thiazolidinediones are safe. So hope this is very clear. Almost all drugs are contraindicated. Only insulin is the preferred. Among DPP4, linagliptin is safe, and thiazolidinediones are safe. Which of the following is not used in treatment of polycystic ovarian disease? Options are letrozole, clomiphene citrate, ulipristal, combined oral contraceptives. In PCOS, what happens? There is unopposed estrogen. This will lead to endometrial hyperplasia. So for endometrial protection, you will give either OCPs or progestins. Progestins, example medroxyprogesterone. One more thing is hyperandrogenic symptoms, hyperandrogenic features like hirsutism. For this, we will OCPs are also beneficial for this. OCPs and spironolactone, weak aldosterone blocker, weak androgen blocker, and it is an aldosterone antagonist, spironolactone, cyproterone acetate. One more problem is infertility. For infertility, preferred drug is clomiphene citrate, and you can also use aromatase inhibitor, example letrozole. So letrozole is given in option, it is correct. Clomiphene citrate is correct. COCs are used correct. So the answer is ulipristal. A 28-year-old pregnant woman was taking medication for hyperthyroidism. One more favorite topic of AIIMS. Pregnancy and hyperthyroidism. She delivered a child with congenital anomaly, aplasia cutis congenita. Most likely medication the woman took was carbimazole, levothyroxine, propylthiouracil, methylthiouracil. See, previously what they used to ask, preferred drug in pregnancy. Drug of choice in pregnancy with hyperthyroidism. See, it depends on which stage of pregnancy the woman is. See, these are the drugs which can be used in pregnancy: propylthiouracil, carbimazole, or methimazole. All three will cross placenta equally, all three will produce fetal hypothyroidism equally, but it is very insignificant and all three can be given in pregnancy. But the thing is, propylthiouracil causes hepatotoxicity, which is hepatotoxicity to mother, and carbimazole, methimazole, if given in first trimester, they will cause congenital anomalies like aplasia cutis, which is being asked in question, aplasia cutis. Other is conal atresia. So in first trimester, that is the reason in first trimester of pregnancy you will give propyl thiouracil, and beyond first trimester you will use carbimazole or methimazole. Clear? So the answer is carbimazole, which causes aplasia cutis congenita. You can also see this direct line from Harrison. If available, propyl thiouracil should be used in early gestation because of association of rare cases of fetal aplasia cutis and other defects such as conal atresia, which is with carbimazole and methimazole. Our answer. Correct. A patient was on long-term anticonvulsant therapy, now presents with progressive contraction of visual field. The likely anti-epileptic drug responsible is, so very easy, you might have, all of you might have answered this. Option A, vigabatrin, ethosuximide, phenobarbital, levetiracetam. So answer is vigabatrin, V for visual field contraction, GABA transaminase inhibitor. GABA transaminase inhibitor is its mechanism. So very easy, commonly asked, previously also, very repeat. Okay, how this visual field is? Visual field is progressive, bilateral in both liver, and it contracts and it is permanent. Hence, vigabatrin is marketed with a black box warning under restrictive use. And for what condition it is used? It is only used for infantile spasms in case of, especially in tuberous sclerosis. Okay. And this vigabatrin is also orphan drug status. In anti-epileptics, see, if you see the question has asked, all the options are anti-epileptics. In anti-epileptics, only two will cause visual problem. One was when we studied vigabatrin, correct? And one more is 2-pyramid. 2-pyramid, you can see there is topi in the name. This topi will go and block the angle, so it will result in angle closure glaucoma. So these are the only two anti-epileptics which will cause visual problems. See. Okay. Next question. Adverse effects produced by psychotropic drug that inhibits serotonin reuptake is constipation, dry mouth, weight gain, sexual dysfunction. The question is about side effects of SSRI. If you see the options, constipation and dry mouth are anticholinergic side effects commonly seen with which drugs? TCA, tricyclic antidepressants. Weight gain, increased appetite is also a common feature of tricyclic antidepressant. Other features like sedation, increasing confusion, all are features of tricyclic antidepressant. These are overcome by SSRI. These side effects are not seen in SSRI, but SSRIs are known to cause sexual dysfunction. Hence, our answer is sexual dysfunction. And SSRIs, most people they leave SSRIs for this side effect, sexual dysfunction. Okay. A 30-year-old male patient was started on lithium. 30-year-old patient was started on lithium carbonate for bipolar disorder. The nurse instructed the patient to return back if following adverse effects are seen. Option A, palpitation, chest pain, raised BP, sedation, constipation, vomiting, tinnitus, severe diarrhea, ataxia, fever, skin rash, bradycardia. If you know the side effects of lithium, this question would have been pretty easy to answer. So lithium, again, one of the favorite topic of AIMS. Every time there will be one or two question on lithium. I prefer you to read about lithium from Kaplan and Sadok's one time if you are really trying for AIMS examinations. So if you see if you know the side effects of lithium, mainly side effects are GI and neurological. In GI, what lithium does? What lithium does whatever it can do to reduce the BP. For example, it will do vomiting, severe diarrhea, increases thirst, decreases BP, So C option, raise BP, wrong. So this is not correct. Severe diarrhea, constipation is there, wrong. Vomiting, correct. But let's see, severe diarrhea here, one is there. Okay, we don't know what. Now CNS toxicity. CNS toxicity in therapeutic range only. In therapeutic range only, the lithium will produce therapeutic range. In therapeutic range, lithium produces fine tremors. As the blood levels increase, the toxicity also increases. This converts to coarse tremor, motor incoordination, nystagmus, ataxia. So all these are features of cerebellar toxicity. You can remember by this cerebellar features. Hence, if you see ataxia, severe diarrhea, so our option is C. Answer is C, tinnitus and severe diarrhea. Again, lithium. For plasma level monitoring of lithium, estimation is done at what time? Option A, immediately after the dose, 8 hours after last dose, 12 hours after last dose, and 24 hours last dose. See, most of you might not know this answer. Every time AIIMS guys, they somehow they manage to make a new question on lithium. See, in case of lithium, you might be knowing the blood levels, which is important for treatment. For example, 1 to 1.5 milliequivalent is used for milliequivalent per liter concentration. Therapeutic concentration is needed in case of acute mania, and in case of bipolar disorder, as well as prophylaxis of acute mania. The dose therapeutic range is kept somewhere between 0.6 to 1 milliequivalent per liter. And what happens if concentration increases more than 1.5 milliequivalent per liter? It will produce mild toxicity. And if the concentration is more than 2 milliequivalent per liter, it will produce moderate to severe toxicity. Hence, if you see, there is very little difference between the doses. Between the therapeutic range, 1 to 1.5 is effective, more than 1.5 is toxic, more than 2 is toxic, 0.6 to 1 is again effective. If the dose is here less than 1, it is not useful in acute mania. So, what I am emphasizing is, you need to measure it and measure it accurately. So for accurate measurement, timing of blood sampling is very important. So this is done after steady state plasma concentration is achieved. So when is steady state plasma concentration achieved? Usually after 5 days in BD or TDS dosing. BD/TDS dose. After 5 days, steady state plasma concentration is achieved. So once the steady state plasma concentration is achieved, you can measure lithium levels after 12 hours of a given dose. So this is a fact you have to remember. I would suggest you to read this portion from Kaplan and Sadaks if you are really targeting for AIIMS examination, because every time there is 1 or 2 question on lithium and it will be very confusing for you. Next, a patient is on metoprolol therapy for hypertension and was also given verapamil. This combination therapy is likely to produce option A, torsade de Pontis, bradycardia with AV block, ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation. If you see the options and question, it is not very difficult to make out. Metoprolol is a beta blocker, correct? And verapamil is a CCB. CCB, calcium channel blocker. So beta blockers, they will cause bradycardia, decrease in heart rate due to delaying AV conduction. Verapamil, it is arteriolar dilator and it decreases afterload, but it is known, it is at the therapeutic concentration, therapeutic dose, it also produces negative chronotropic inotropic effect, thereby causing decrease in heart rate. So both of these decrease heart rate, hence ventricular tachycardia is not the answer, fibrillation is also not, bradycardia with AV block is the correct answer. Now one more reason is beta blockers are metabolized by CYP enzymes, correct? By CYP enzyme. Verapamil is a, what I said, ACC cements concrete inhibits enzyme very fast, very. This is again an enzyme inhibitor. So it also inhibits cytochrome P450 system. So if it inhibits, beta blocker toxicity can occur. Beta blocker are known to cause AV block. If you see, this is a direct line from Goodman-Gilman. The use of IV verapamil and with IV beta blocker is contraindicated. Because of increased propensity of AV block or severe depression of ventricular function. Verapamil is also contraindicated. Verapamil is not used with beta blocker, which was our question. It is also not used with digoxin because verapamil inhibits enzyme as well as it inhibits P-glycoprotein. P-glycoprotein, if inhibited, it will cause digoxin is not excreted, digoxin accumulation, again same thing, AV block may happen. And it is also not used with quinidine. Again for the same reason, quinidine is metabolized by CYP3A and verapamil is its inhibitor. So it will result in quinidine toxicity. All of the following drugs are indicated in treatment of non-ST elevation MI except clopidogrel, aspirin, streptokinase, prasugrel. If you see option, everything looks very confusing. In MI, almost all are used, but in non-ST elevation MI, in NST MI, non-ST elevation MI, you don't use thrombolysis. You don't do thrombolysis. Why? Why you won't do thrombolysis? See, in option which is thrombolytic, streptokinase is a thrombolytic. Streptokinase, urokinase, altiplase, tenecteplase, all these are thrombolytics. Clopidogrel, aspirin, prasugrel, all are antiplatelets, so all can be used. See what happens in this ST elevation MI. Consider this is the blood vessel. Okay, this is the blood vessel. What happens in ST elevation MI? There is formation of thrombus. Inside the vessel, which leads to block of. There is complete occlusion. Complete occlusion in case of STEMI. This is in case of ST elevation MI. In case of STEMI, there is complete occlusion of the blood vessel. So if you thrombolize it, the circulation will restart. And you will improve the myocardial perfusion. Now what happens in non-ST elevation MI? In non-ST elevation MI, there is incomplete occlusion, that is partial occlusion. So only partial occlusion is there, and this is a fibrin cap, and there is underlying will be a platelet rich plug. So there is platelet rich plug underlying the fibrin cap. What will happen if you give thrombolytic? If you give thrombolytic, this will go away, correct? If you give thrombolytic, this fibrin cap will go away like this. Okay, it went off. So what has happened? Underlying platelet is exposed. If underlying platelet is exposed, further thrombus formation can start. So this may go for complete occlusion. Complete thrombus formation. Hence, in non-ST elevation MI, thrombolytics are not used. Next question. Which of the following drug can be used as an antidote for fibrinolytic overdose? Again, a repeat question. In case of fibrinolytic overdose, means in case of overdose by streptokinase, urokinase, or alteplase, which drug you will use? You will use antifibrinolytic. Among the options given, antifibrinolytic is epsilon amino caproic acid. This is specific antidote. Specific antidote for fibrinolytic overdose. Consider some students were of the option that so answer will be epsilon amino caproic acid if these are the options. Some students were of the option that there was tranexamic acid was also there in the option. So if tranexamic acid is in the option, what will be the option answer? If both are there, both are antifibrinolytic agents, but the preferred antifibrinolytic is which one? Preferred antifibrinolytic is tranexamic acid. Why tranexamic acid is preferred? Because of it is a bit safer than epsilon amino caproic acid, and it is more potent, approximately 7 times potent than epsilon amino caproic acid. Hence, in this case, the answer will be tranexamic acid. Next, which among the following is second line ATT? Again, repeat. A bit confused. You may get confused by seeing streptomycin whether it is first line or second line. See, first line ATT means these are the drug which are highly efficacious and safer, and these are the HRZES. These are first line drugs: streptomycin, ethambutol, pyrazinamide, rifampicin, and isoniazid. Second line drugs, these are the drugs which either efficacy is low, whose efficacy is low, or they are toxic or both. Correct? So among the given options, you will get ethionamide, streptomycin is the first line, and vancomycin acyclovir you have not heard in ATT. Next, see, I'll just tell about various second line drugs. These are the various second line drugs: fluoroquinolones, injectable drugs, not streptomycin, because streptomycin is a first line ATT, highly efficacious, comparatively safer, not streptomycin. Okay. Fluoroquinolones, Oflox, Levoflox, moxifloxacin, and Cipro, kanamycin, amikacin, capromycin. These are the injectable agents, and other oral drugs. Ethionamide, which is our answer, is second line ATT, oral ATT. Prothionamide, cycloserine, para-aminosalicylic acid, and rifabutin, rifapentin. These are rifamycins and terrazidone. Next question. Okay, again from Mycobacteria. All are bactericidal agents against Mycobacterium except kanamycin, thiacetazone, rifapentin, isoniazid. Don't confuse this with previous question. See, antimycobacterial agents can be divided into group 1, 2, 3, 4. What I said, first line agents, HRZDS, but what we do in group 1 is these are the oral, first line oral. Streptomycin is given by injection. Hence, group 1 includes HRZD. All group 1 are cidal except which? Ethambutol. This is static. Isoniazid is cidal, rifampicin and all rifamycin derivatives. All rifamycin derivatives are also cidal. Pyrazinamide is cidal. So what options went off? Isoniazid is cidal, rifapentin is cidal. Correct? So now we'll see group 2, injectable. These are streptomycin, kanamycin, amikacin. All group 2 agents are again cidal. So kanamycin, this is also cidal. Remaining option is thiacetazone. Thiacetazone, most of you might not have heard about it. It was used in ATT. It is now history. It was used in very past. Group 3, fluoroquinolones. All fluoroquinolones are again cidal. Okay. Just for completion's sake, I will tell about group 4 drugs. These are the remaining oral second line drugs and include this thing. Group 5 is with unclear efficacy. It also includes bedaquiline. In this there is sidal as well as static. A resident developed needle prick injury while taking blood sample of HIV positive symptomatic patient. Which of the following regimen is best for post-exposure prophylaxis for this doctor? So question is about post-exposure prophylaxis in adults. Option is zidovudine plus lamivudine, zidovudine, lamivudine, indinavir, zidovudine, lamivudine, nevirapine, zidovudine, stavudine, nevirapine. So before answering this, I will show you post-exposure prophylaxis guidelines. Hope you are remembering these options. See, for adults, tenofovir and precitabine. So these are the preferred 2 NRT and preferred protease inhibitor is lopinavir or ritonavir or atazanavir or ritonavir. So if you have if you have managed to memorize this also, then also you will fail to answer the question. So what the question is asking, in case of children, you can pause the video here and go through this post-exposure prophylaxis if you want. So what the question is asking is concept. What is the concept? See, what as per WHO guideline, we should use 2 NRTI, minimum 2 NRTI in the antiretroviral in this post-exposure regimen, preferably with third drug of different class. So there is no need of third, but preferably you can use third drug of a different class. So minimum is 2 NRTI is required. If you see option 2 NRTI is there in zidovudine, lamivudine, zidovudine, lamivudine, zidovudine, lamivudine, zidovudine, stavudine are there in all options. Other options are indinavir, nevirapine, nevirapine. So what will be preferably by this statement? These three can be preferred, but we are not ruling out this also here. So next, what you have to know, in case of prophylaxis, you are giving prophylaxis to a healthy person. He is not having disease. You are preventing the HIV infection. So you need not use toxic drugs. Nevirapine is not used in post prophylaxis. See, nevirapine is not recommended for post-exposure prophylaxis in adults as well as in children below 2 years due to its hepatotoxic potential. Hence, it is not used in post-exposure prophylaxis. So these two options are ruled out now. Zidovudine is ruled out. Zidovudine plus nevirapine is ruled out. Zidovudine plus nevirapine. This is also ruled. So remaining two is this. Preferably we will use third. Hence the answer is zidovudine, lamivudine, indinavir. Consider in place of lamivudine. In place of this, the option was stavudine. If you know further more, zidovudine and stavudine are pharmacodynamically antagonists. They should not be combined. So, zidovudine stavudine cannot be combined and nevirapine cannot be used. Answer will automatically become zidovudine plus lamivudine. Okay. Now consider lamivudine is given in option. Our answer will be zidovudine plus lamivudine plus indinavir. Correct. This will be our answer. Next, as I said, combinations should be avoided. Zidovudine plus stavudine. There are various other combinations which need to be avoided, and I will just show you. You can remember. See, zidovudine plus stavudine, pharmacodynamic antagonism, and diadenosine is not combined with stavudine, lamivudine, tenofovir. And lamivudine, emtricitabine are similar drugs. These should be avoided. So if in any question these are the combination which are given, then you can rule out this as wrong answers. Next question. A female is on tamoxifen therapy for unilateral breast cancer. Following adverse effect is associated with tamoxifen. Option: chronic myeloid leukemia, CA in opposite breast, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer. So you know tamoxifen is a selective estrogen receptor modulator. Selective estrogen, why we are saying selective, means it will act antagonist at some site and agonist at few site. Now, estrogen is acting antagonist at breast carcinoma cells. Hence, it is useful in ER positive breast cancer cells, ER positive cancer patients, as well as it is used as a primary prophylaxis. Primary prophylaxis means even when the cancer has not developed, this drug is given prophylactically. So, CA in opposite breast is prevented. So, this is wrong answer. question is which adverse effect is associated. So CA in opposite breast is wrong answer. Next, blood vessel and peripheral site. It acts as antagonist at this. By this, what will be the effect? Hot flushes. So hot flushes will be a adverse effect. ADR of tamoxifen. Other things. It is acting partial agonist now. Agonist at various other sites like uterus. In uterus, if it acts agonist, it will cause endometrial hyperplasia. Endometrial hyperplasia, which may in future result into endometrial carcinoma. If you see in options, here we have endometrial carcinoma as an adverse effect for tamoxifen. So this will be our answer. Let's finish other side effects or beneficial effect. At bone, it is acting as agonist, so it will increase the density of bone. If it increases density of bone, this is a preferred thing. So this is a preferred thing. In liver, what it will cause? It will cause reduction in total cholesterol, reduction in LDL cholesterol, and it will not have any effect on HDL or triglyceride. No effect on HDL or triglyceride. Also, it affects clotting factors. Hence, because of this, as well as on blood vessels antagonistic action, it will produce deep vein thrombosis. This is again a ADR. And at pituitary, it will reduce gonadotropins as well as reduce prolactin. So what are the adverse effects of tamoxifen therapy? Hot flushes, endometrial carcinoma, deep vein thrombosis. Okay. And what are the favorable features? It is useful in endometrial carcinoma, breast carcinoma with ER positive, increases bone density, it improves cholesterol profile. Drug of choice for treatment of hairy cell leukemia is interferon alpha, fludarabine, pentostatin, cladribine. If you see, all the options are used in treatment of hairy cell leukemia. Now, which is the drug of choice? Cladribine. Why cladribine is the drug of choice? See this statement. It is the drug of choice in hairy cell leukemia because it causes 80%. This is a huge number. 80% of patients achieve a complete response, and that too in first course, single course of therapy, which lasted for 7 days of continuous infusion. So hence cladribine is the drug of choice for hairy cell leukemia. Answer will be cladribine. Wish you all the best. Thank you.